The transmission and clutch assembly is a major component of your cordless drill. The transmission has a series of gears that increase the amount of torque the drill produces. It also has 2 torque settings and a selector to change between them. The clutch is adjustable and allows you to set it to cut out at a specific torque. This is helpful when driving screws to a specific depth. Over time, the transmission will wear out and eventually fail. Often a failed transmission won't drive at all on one torque setting, but will still work on the other. A failed clutch might not slip at all, slip constantly, or slip at a lower amount of torque than it should. Replacing the transmission and clutch assembly is a repair that you can do yourself, and I'm going to show you how. I'll begin by removing the chuck from the cordless drill. The chuck is secured with a retaining screw, and then the chuck itself is threaded onto the shaft. The retaining screw is a reverse thread. With the screw removed, now I can chuck a large Allen wrench into the drill's chuck and secure it. I'll make sure that the clutch is set to the drill mode and that the transmission is in the low gear setting. Now I'll place the drill on the edge of my workbench, and I'm going to strike the Allen wrench with a shop mallet, and that sudden jolt will break free the thread on the chuck. Now I can remove the side housing from the drill. Now I'll lift the motor and transmission and clutch assembly out of the housing, twist the motor counterclockwise, and I can pull the transmission and clutch away from the motor. Now there's a number of parts I'll need to remove from the old transmission and clutch and transfer to the new. I'll start with the clutch ring. The ring will pull away from the rest of the assembly. Beneath the ring you'll find a retaining clip, and I'll go ahead and remove it. Now I can unscrew this geared ring and remove the spring beneath it. Now I'll remove the retaining plate. Beneath the retaining plate there's a series of ball bearings, and I'll carefully remove those. As well as the indent pin. And last I'll remove the selector switch. I carefully pry the wires away from the gearbox. Now I can begin installing the new transmission and clutch assembly. You'll notice on one side of the assembly there's a small arrow, and that is the top of the gearbox. With the top located, I'll go ahead and reinstall the selector switch. I align it with the openings on either side of the gearbox. Now I'll reinstall each of the ball bearings and place the retainer plate over them. Next, I'll place the spring over the retainer plate and then secure it with the geared or spline ring. And I'll tighten this ring up until it contacts the retainer plate. Then I can place the clip back into the front of the nose piece. You'll notice on one side there's a small tab where the clip passes through. And the clip needs to go in on that side with the tab. I'll place the indent pin back into the opening at the base of the clutch. And now I can replace the selector ring. You'll notice that the cutout in the selector ring is cut to accept that clip that we placed. One side has a large opening, that's for the top of the clip, and the other side has two small openings, and that's for the ends. I'll align the ring with the clip and then press it into place on the transmission. And now this assembly is ready to go back into the drill. I'll align the transmission with the motor. You'll notice a couple of arrows both on the transmission and on the motor. I align those arrows and then give the transmission a clockwise twist to lock it in place. And I can align the transmission and motor, as well as the switch, back with the housings. As I reinstall the switch, I need to make sure that I align the post on the switch with the reverse lever. And I'll make sure I have the wires tucked out of the way. If the bit holder fell out like mine did, you just reinstall it back into the housing. And now I'm ready to reinstall the other half of the housing. And I'll secure the housings with the screws. I'll make sure everything works freely. And now we're ready to reinstall the chuck. I'll thread the chuck back onto the spindle. And I'll place the Allen wrench back into the chuck. And this time I'll just hand tighten the chuck. And I'll finish up by replacing the retaining screw. And again, remember, this is a reverse thread screw. And that's all it takes to install a new transmission and clutch assembly on your drill.